Halo. What is it? Can I eat it? It looks like a huge onion ring, so, I mean, why shouldn't I? What am I saying again? Halo. What? Yeah, Halo. That's, Halo. So, originally, I was gonna make this huge retrospective going through all the Halo games one by one and reviewing them. And then I realized that there's really not much to say about each game individually, and anything I would say would probably be inconsequential and meaningless. Everyone watching this knows what Halo is, probably, and honestly, Razorvic did a perfect video series on every game, so I don't really have anything meaningful to add in terms of analysis. But what I can add is really my personal experience with these games. I have this huge script that I started writing, but I thought that, if I'm gonna say my personal experiences from my heart, so to speak, I might as well do it without a script. I do have notes though, so I'm not gonna be speaking entirely out of my ass. I should probably start with how I started with Halo. Probably that's probably the best way to do this. I was probably around 6 when I first played Halo. I got an Xbox 360, and it came with Halo 3, I believe. Yeah, and that was my first experience with the Halo series, which sounds odd because, it might seem weird to you that I didn't start with Halo Combat Evolved, and well, that's because I'm not that old. But anyway, Halo 3 was an amazing experience. I remember playing the co-op campaign for the first time with my brother. He was playing Master Chief, obviously, and I was playing the Arbiter. And I didn't even know who the Arbiter was at that point because I didn't play the previous 2 games. But I think really the most important part of that game and that experience was the multiplayer. I didn't have Xbox Live growing up, at all. I never had the chance to play actual multiplayer with other people, but I remember playing so many 1v1s with my brother, and that was a really good experience. I remember it very fondly to this day, and even just last year when they released the Master Chief Collection on PC, it was just insane when I opened it for the first time and heard that that classic sound. And I cried the first time I opened it. It was phenomenal, the effect that it had on me. And that's because everything just came flooding back to my mind. To be honest, there wasn't many good memories of that time period, but just playing Halo itself was the experience that I enjoyed remembering. But really the best part of that was that, last year, obviously, I couldn't really hang out with my brother like I normally could, and so the only way I could talk was through the phone. But now that we had Halo, which it's actually a funny story because actually it was him that got it first, and we were sharing one account. I had my own Steam account, but I usually used his because he had hundreds of games. Yeah, once he got that, I just was waiting to play when he wasn't playing, and he was waiting to play when I wasn't playing. And it was just a huge mess. And so when it went on sale, a week after, he actually bought another copy for me, which he didn't have to do, but it was, that's what he did. And after that, we were able to play at the same time, and so we played custom games and we played 1v1s like we did all those years ago. And it was amazing. It was phenomenal being able to actually play with him on those classic maps on Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 3 and even Halo Reach, because I think during that time when I was a child, obviously, it was mainly Halo 3 and Halo Reach that I played the most. I think Halo Reach because you know, the customization, obviously, and also I think it was easier slightly, like not only the campaign but like just the general the controls, the way it looked and the way it controlled was a lot better in my mind, so I just happened to play it more. You know, there was also a lot more multiplayer options. You know, Firefight could actually play cooperatively with my brother, and that's I remember playing Gruntpocalypse all the time, which was really fun. But yeah, it was amazing just being able to play that again online without him actually having to be here. And I mean, it will never replace local co-op, obviously. I don't think it holds up against local co-op, but just it was for what it was and for the circumstances, it was amazing. It was incredible just being able to have that. For the entirety of last year, my main, really like the only thing keeping me sane was waiting for the next Halo installment to release on the PC. You know, when Halo 2 came out, I made the Let's Play series, which didn't do very well, but I enjoyed it so much. Just playing it and also editing it and releasing it, it was great. And then Halo 3, obviously, I was extremely excited for. And yeah, I played those to death, like, I played the multiplayer all the time. I think I have almost 300 hours on it now. But yeah, it was just incredible, being able to play that, and to finally play it on the PC after not having my Xbox 360 for a long time. One thing that I do miss about actually owning the original copies of the game on the Xbox was just the title screens, man. The menus, oh my gosh. All of the menus in the Master Chief Collection for PC are just, I don't care. Just give me back those old ass menus, those title screens that were just beautiful. Especially the Halo 2 and Halo 3 menus, like, oh my god, they were incredible. Also, not only that, but, you know, the credits aren't in the Master Chief Collection, which I think is a little strange. Like, I don't know why it just doesn't play the credits when you finish the game. I get that they want to streamline the experience, but I do kind of wish they kept those. And also, the loading screens that they replaced, I feel like it kind of ruins the flow of the cutscenes and everything, because it just cuts to a random concept image that they had and like a boring ass loading screen. When like the old ones, they either loaded with like a black screen or some cool like key art or something. I don't know. Like, it's been a while, but it felt like there was something missing, you know? Like, the effect of it just wasn't the same when you swap out those old loading screens with the boring bar filling up loading. It doesn't fit, you know? But anyway, that's not the most important thing. I know I never should have expected having those old nostalgic experiences again. I mean, obviously, they're going to streamline things, they're going to make things easier to see and to maneuver and interact with. So obviously that makes sense. But, you know, it was... I think that alone is fine for me. You know, maybe at some point I'll buy an Xbox 360 for like $20 and get the original copies of each game, but not for a while, at least. But, you know, it's great that we have that we have this on PC now, and we have the choice. Anyway, I feel like that went on for a bit too long. I think that is an important part of the experience for me. Just, you know, nostalgia, obviously. Hearing that incredible soundtrack playing over the vistas of the blue and the shades of dark blue and grey with the old font. Oh, God. Just, yeah. When I talk about Halo, I try to avoid talking about the story and the gameplay, because if I'm being honest, it's not the best, you know? Like, if you're going to Halo for a groundbreaking, innovative, introspective story or critique or anything like that, it's not that. I mean, even the gameplay itself isn't that engaging, which this sounds like a criticism, and it kind of is, but you know, like, it's the experience for me. It's the entire. That's the thing with Halo. It's better than the sum of its parts. It's the entire experience, the aura, the tone that it has as a whole is just. It draws you in, if you know what I'm talking about, which you probably don't. But if you have played Halo, and if you're watching this video, you probably have. I would assume that you understand, like, the soundtrack, the I don't want to say atmosphere, because that's so basic and devoid of meaning. The feeling of exploring that the first Halo, in Halo Combat Evolved, you crash land, and you're walking, wondering where the fuck you are, holding a pistol, and you pick up a assault rifle from the ground of like a bunch of dead Marines, and there's ancient architecture, there's beautiful music playing in the background, and then there's the huge landscape with the giant thing on the horizon just rising up, and you don't know what it is, and you don't know where you are, but you just... It feels magical when you play it for the first time, and being able to play that again, it's incredible just to experience that again, and that's what I love about Halo. It's those moments. But if I really want to talk about tone, then I'd have to talk about Halo 3 ODST. In my notes here, I have Halo 3 ODST as an entire point, because it's honestly my favorite Halo. And that might seem strange, because not a lot of people talk about Halo 3 ODST. Like, you don't see entire videos analyzing it, or entire videos, like, when talking about Halo, nobody really talks about or mentions. Like, they might pass it off as, like, one of the installments, you know? Like, one of Bungie's final installments, but to me, it was more than that. It was a lot more than that. When I played it for the first time, you know, it was... I didn't really like it at first. Like, it was kind of weird, and I got lost pretty often because of the huge city that you have to explore to find new missions, and I got stuck on one part because I couldn't find the way to progress. And, okay, to be fair, I was very young at the time, and I didn't understand what the fuck anything was, but eventually I did beat it, like, a few years after that. But playing it again in 2020 was really something. Back when I played it for the first time, it was the first Halo game where I didn't play with my brother at all. At that point, you know, my brother had moved on, and you know, I had to play it by myself. And also, I don't think there is co-op. I don't think there is co-op in Halo 3 ODST. So either way, I would have been playing by myself. And God, the atmosphere in that game. I know I said I didn't want to say atmosphere, but just play this game and tell me you don't feel like that. It feels like you're playing a noir film, and like, that's very vague and kind of simplifying it, but it's that specific tone and theme it makes you feel alone. It makes you feel isolated in this city where there are aliens on every corner trying to hunt you down and kill you. And it was the first game where you didn't have much protection at all. I think it was a really cool design decision to make you play as a soldier that doesn't have the same protection that Master Chief did. And not only that, but even your melee attacks don't do nearly as much damage as what it did before. So you can't rely on that to kill brutes in like 2 hits. And so the game was mostly about surviving encounters. And I know that's not a unique thing from before. I mean, most of the Halo games, I think, specifically Halo Combat Evolved mainly, they tried to toy with the idea that you were by yourself and it's one against many. So you don't have much supply, you don't have much advantages, but you have to use what's given to you in order to survive encounters. And for Halo 3 ODST, they knocked that notch up like to 11, and it was amazing. And when I first played it, it was maybe a bit too difficult for me because I died a lot of times, but playing it again in 2020 was just phenomenal. And yeah, again, experiencing that sense of loneliness and not having anyone to play it with, it was very interesting. And I kind of brushed past the music a bit before, but the music in Halo 3 ODST does so much to add to the tone and the feeling of loneliness that it wants to convey. Like, for example, the way that it uses smooth tones for the first half, mainly using like it sounds alien to an extent. The kind of wailing sounds and the different synthesizers that they use it adds so much to how it feels to play, and how the protagonist is isolated in this city full of aliens. It captures the essence of essentially what the first game was trying to do, of the feeling that you're exploring something new, where in Halo 3 ODST it's familiar, but you're seeing it in a new light, basically. And I think this is also added to how the city itself is designed, like the graffiti everywhere and being able to see the actual culture of where the humans live. It's incredible. I could talk about it for ages. I think Halo 3 ADST just has so much going on, and I don't understand how people just looked over it. And I know Bungie did as well, kind of. Like, they clearly didn't put in as much effort into making it as the other 4 games that they made. And that's for a multitude of reasons. If you watch the Racevic videos, he explains what happened in detail. But essentially, they wanted to stop making Halo after Halo 3, but Microsoft was like, but it's making too much money, we can't stop it now. And so they made they signed a contract or something where they'd have to make like 2 more games and then they'll be finished. And so those 2 games happened to be Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach. But they put most of their resources into Halo Reach because they wanted it to be like a send-off, basically. And it was going to be a prequel. And Halo 3 ODST was just kind of like I think it was originally going to be DLC for Halo 3, but then they decided to just make it standalone because it was, they just wanted to sell it for hire. Like, honestly, it's worth it. I think it's a perfectly fine standalone installment in the franchise, and I think it holds up better than the rest of them, like, in my opinion. I think playing it in 2020 just it added so much to how I felt about the game than when I played it initially. And part of it's because of growing up, and the second part is because of lockdown, obviously. But it's just such a good game, and I think the open world is probably the best part of the game. Like, the individual missions are fine, but it just... the open world is just so unique in how it's portrayed and how it plays. Like, there's so much more stealth involved in the open world than in any other Halo game. I'm gonna get to Halo Infinite later because I don't wanna set up expectations now, but I really want a Halo game to bring that back. Like, Halo 3 ODST came out in 2009, and obviously there were open world games before that. There were many open world games before that, but ODST was the first one to do a proper narrative structure that was non-linear, and I think that's incredibly fascinating. And not only that, but the entire thing about Halo is, just as I said before about Halo Combat Evolved, it was that magical feeling of cognitive estrangement. It was that feeling of seeing something familiar, but it feels like a grounded place, while also being strange to some extent, being mysterious and alien, both literally and figuratively. Like that first mission when you crash land on Halo, it was incredible, and I think structuring that to be an open world, non-linear narrative where you're just exploring a new place, a new Halo, let's say, with no knowledge of what's going on, and having to piece it together by finding, finding structures and exploring inside of them. I think that could be incredible. Halo 3 ODST, I feel like it's just a prototype. It's just something that they tried, and it didn't quite manage to pull through, but it definitely has potential to be an amazing game. And that in its own right is why I think Halo 3 ODST is the best Halo game. But, you know, after Halo Reach, which is also a pretty good game, but not incredible, if you know what I mean. I played Halo Reach a lot for the multiplayer, but the campaign was just really meh. Like, all the dialogue was really strange. It was just kind of boring. But I will say, for Halo Reach, like, the cutscenes were incredible. It was like Halo 2, it has an incredible campaign. It's the kind of campaign where, like, they expanded so much on the material that they set up in the first game that it just, they just added too much to the point where they had to cut stuff, which kind of ruined the ending and also Halo 3 by consequence. Because Halo 3 was essentially supposed to be Act 3 for Halo 2, but it just ended up being padded out and not very well paced, which sucks, but Halo 2 is still a pretty amazing game, conceptually and, like, just generally. But what I brought it up for is the cutscenes in Halo 2 were specifically going for a cinematic style, but also like it's an epic, it's a space epic, and they specifically tried to do that by having those cinematic cutscenes that had full animation and full voice acting, as opposed to Halo Combat Evolved, which had like machinima style cutscenes, basically. And I'm not saying that as a criticism against Halo Combat Evolved, because the cutscenes were fine, they were serviceable. But in Halo 2, they really stepped it up, and you could tell. And with Halo Reach, they brought that to a whole nother level with the motion capture and the cinematic style that was in Halo 2 was mimicking that of the 70s and 80s blockbusters like Star Wars. while Halo Reach was copying that style of like a Zack Snyder film, you know, like with the shaky cam and the pan and zooms. Like they specifically tried to emulate that with the motion capture and how they filmed it, and it works so well in making the setting and the world itself much more grounded. And that's the special thing about Halo Reach, is that they, even though it's set in such a epic sci-fi fantasy world, I guess, it felt so much more grounded than the other games, which was kind of a misstep, but also it worked a little bit in its favor, because the story itself felt a lot more grounded because of that. I think that was great the way they did that. And also just the colors in Halo Reach were really good. Also the graphics themselves were really good. And like, yeah, it's doesn't hold up as well today. And I think the gritty look kind of is a detriment to how it looks. But, you know, it's better than Halo 4, so what can I say? And talking about Halo 4, let's move on to the 343 era of Halo, which is quite fitting that they named it after the villain from the 3 of the games. But, you know, look, if I'm being honest, they didn't do a horrible job. Except for Halo 5. Fuck Halo 5. But Halo 4 isn't a bad game, per se. Like, it did some interesting stuff with the narrative. I think the story between Cortana and Master Chief was actually quite good. Like, I think it was fine how they did that, and the dialogue itself, like, is okay. But then there's the villain, who is just awful, and like just the way that they handled the the way they handled the lore and everything was a little bit weird. But like, you know, it's not the worst game, but it's definitely not the best game. But I still have faith for 343. You know, like 343, they definitely care about the Halo legacy. They definitely care a lot about it. I mean, why else would they have made the Master Chief Collection on PC in the first place? I mean, probably because of money, but also, like, they actually do care about what the fans think. And I think a lot of that is because they hired fans for 343 to develop the new games, but, like, they don't want it to be lost in time and to be forgotten. And it seems like they do care about what people think of when they think of Halo. And you know what I think when I think of Halo, but at this point. 343 still has some hope. And if Halo Infinite turns out to be a horrid mess, I will still be there to play it. Like, I don't care how bad it turns out, I will play it. I will play it to the death, if I have to. But I really hope that they will learn their lesson, and that they will actually grow and be able to make something that's actually, that brings back the love and excitement for Halo, like they did with the Master Chief Collection on PC. And while I do have problems with the Halo community, if you look at any of the live chats for any of the streams that they did, it's just awful. Like, it's definitely a place for racists and homophobia and a lot of Gamergate people. But, you know, I still love Halo. I'm not gonna cancel Halo, quote unquote, or say that I'm not gonna support any of the games anymore because of the community or whatever, like because of the fan base. But like, the passion for Halo is definitely there, and I don't care about those people. But I think there's definitely a place for Halo still in the gaming industry, and I hope that continues. And if Halo becomes a live service, then You know, at least it'll still exist, you know? I just, I don't want to forget about Halo, because it's been such a huge part of my life, even now, and I think for the rest of my life it'll always be there, it'll always be a part of who I am and what I enjoy, and I just, yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to actually listen to this and enjoy this, but I hope that you gained something out of this, or at least thought about something new. Just as a short addendum, I kind of feel like I didn't quite express how I feel about the music as a whole, because I believe that the music itself is why I didn't forget about Halo, why I was waiting for it for so long after I didn't have my Xbox 360 or any of the games anymore. For like many years, I couldn't play them at all, but it was really the music that allowed me to remember it and to look back on it so fondly. And really it added so much to how I felt about them generally. And I know everyone talks about Martin O'Donnell, and everyone praises him so highly, and like he does deserve it. Him and Michael Salvatore, they did such an amazing job capturing how the game was remembered by people. And I think that's also partly because Martin O'Donnell was also the sound director for most of them. Like he actually did all of the sound effects, and he directed the voice acting and everything like that, and that really did control a lot more of the game than really anything else. Like, it's strange that a game, a first-person shooter, would put the story and gameplay to the side to concentrate more on how it sounded. And I think that's really incredible and fascinating that a game like this did that. And also about Halo Reach, I feel like I didn't give it enough credit. A lot of people don't enjoy Halo Reach as much as any of the other games, because like it was kind of a downgrade from Halo 3, if I'm being honest, just in terms of the way that it felt. I guess it didn't feel like a Halo game at that point. But as I say that, it wasn't really about that. It was about passing the torch to 343, and the story does that really well, I think. An analogy that I made that my brother really really did not enjoy. I thought of it as though the noble team was the legacy that was being carried. I mean, the entire mission was about bringing Cortana to Master Chief before Halo Combat Evolved even started. And I think the decision to make the player be Noble 6, to be able to customize them to however you want to be, it shows that it was really the players, that it was really the people who enjoyed Halo that carry the legacy forward and allowed it to start up in the first place. And I think that was done really well, and I don't think Halo Reach gets enough credit as it should. If I'm being honest, it's not even a bad game in general. Like, it's still really well designed. It's really well paced as well. Like, especially it's pretty well paced, except for the space defense one. That one was just awful. I hated that mission. But like everything else, it's just like it works, but it doesn't feel exactly like Halo, you know? But yeah, that's just what I felt about it, and I just needed to add that quickly, because I feel like I didn't talk about that enough. I've just given my perspective and my subjective experience with these games, and you know, if you want to share yours, then please do. I would love to hear what you think of anything about Halo, as long as it's not a bad take. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, I'm really glad, and if you watched this far, that's honestly pretty impressive. So good job, I guess. I'll see you next time. I'm really sorry. I've said I'm gonna release my first video before this one. I'm gonna release it at this date and whatever. I know I always say that, but I never get to do it. But I really I'm really hoping that I release this on the 15th of November for the 20th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved, because this is so important to me. And if I don't get it done, I think I'm gonna quit forever. I'm not doing this anymore. But please stick around. Don't watch my first video. That one sucks. Just watch this one and the next one, which will definitely come out soon. I swear to God, I've recorded it. I've done everything for it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna release it. And that's gonna be Fallout New Vegas. So if you want to watch that, please subscribe. And yeah, I will have more actual scripted videos and actual essays coming out. Look, I'm gonna be very busy for a while. If you haven't seen my update video on Funny Snake, you'll understand. If you watch that, you'll understand why that is. But I've got a lot to do right now. The uploads page isn't gonna be as populated soon, but it will be eventually. So if you wanna stick around for that, then thanks. And I'll see ya on the flippity flip. What? Okay.